TPR tokens to place bids, and the highest bidder at the end of the auction period wins that fraction of the property.
Okay, so it's kind of like a traditional auction,
Yeah,
but with points and crypto tokens instead of cash.
exactly.
Well, what happens after that? Do players get a deed in the mail?
Uh-huh.
Can they go visit their tiny sliver of real estate?
Well, remember, we're talking about fractional ownership represented by NFTs. So you're holding a digital token that verifies your share,
Okay,
not a physical deed.
so it's less about having a physical stake in a specific property.
Right.
And more about having a verifiable digital asset
Exact.
that reflects that ownership.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And just like with stocks, I imagine the value of your NFT can fluctuate
Absolutely.
based on market conditions,
Yeah.
the performance of the property itself,
Yeah.
and of course the overall health of the GoTapper platform.
Exactly.
So it's still an investment that carries risks.
Right.
It's not a guaranteed return just because you're tapping away on your phone.
For sure. And it's important to remember that this is still a relatively new concept.
Right.
Untested.
Right.
There's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding NFTs and fractional real estate, let alone within the context of a tap-to-earn game.
Okay. So before anyone rushes out to download GoTapper
Yeah.
and start their tapping empire,
Yeah.
what are some things they should keep in mind? What questions should they be asking themselves?
Well, first and foremost, do your research.
Oh,
Don't just jump in because it sounds fun or because everyone else is doing it.
yeah. FOMO's not a good investment strategy.
Exactly. You need to understand the game's mechanics, the tokenomics, the risks involved.
Solid advice.
Huh.
What about the real estate side of things? Should players be evaluating the properties themselves,
Oh, absolutely.
like a traditional investor would?
Yeah. Just because it's presented in this game format doesn't mean you should throw caution to the wind.
Right.
GoTapper provides players with details about the properties,
Okay.
including location type, potential for appreciation.
So there is some due diligence involved.
Yeah, they need to approach this as a real investment because ultimately that's what it is.
Okay, so due diligence is key, even in the world of tapping goats and virtual auctions.
Exactly.
But let's zoom out for a moment. We've been deep in the GoTapper weeds here.
Yeah.
This is just one example of a larger trend. What's the bigger picture here?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a convergence of gaming finance and technology, creating this new landscape of investment opportunities.
Okay.
And this trend, it's being fueled by the desire for greater accessibility and engagement, especially among younger generations.
Yeah. It's about breaking down those traditional barriers to investment and reimagining how we interact with financial markets.
It's fascinating, right?
It is.
This idea that something as simple as tapping on our phones
Yeah.
could open doors to investment opportunities that were previously out of reach.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But with any emerging trend, there are bound to be winners and losers.
Right.
How does GoTapper stack up against other players in the tap-to-earn space?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a crowded field out there, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
We've seen a surge of play-to-earn games popping up, each with its own model and approach.
Right.
Some have already fizzled out,
Yeah.
unable to maintain their value or engage their communities.
So what are some of the common pitfalls that these games face, and what is GoTapper doing to try to avoid those same mistakes?
One major challenge is maintaining a stable in-game economy.
Okay.
A lot of games struggle to balance the creation and distribution of rewards,
Right.
which leads to inflation, devalues in-game assets, and ultimately disengages players.
Yeah, that makes sense. GoTapper's focus on real-world assets, like real estate, could potentially provide a more stable foundation.
Oh, okay.
They're also being more strategic with their token distribution and implementing measures like that buyback and burn to control supply.
So they're trying to learn from the mistakes of their predecessors,
Yeah.
build a more robust model. But another thing that's often overlooked is the community aspect.
Yeah.
How is GoTapper leveraging its community to not only attract players, but also keep them engaged over the long term?
Community is absolutely key in this space.
Yeah.
And GoTapper seems to understand that they're fostering a sense of ownership among their players, encouraging them to be more than just passive consumers.
I like that.
Players can contribute to the game's development through feedback mechanisms, participate in governance decisions related to the platform, and even create content that promotes the game.
So it's less about a company dictating the terms,
Right.
and more about building a collaborative ecosystem
Yeah,
where players feel like they have a real stake in the game's success. That's smart.
it is. But even with all these measures in place, there's still the question of regulation.
Right. How are governments and regulatory bodies approaching this whole tap-to-earn, crypto-infused gaming landscape?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's still a bit of a Wild West out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, regulators are scrambling to catch up with the rapid pace of innovation in this space.
Understandably.
There are concerns about investor protection, money laundering, the potential for market manipulation.
So it's a bit of a regulatory gray area at the moment.
It is.
That adds another layer of complexity and risk
Definitely.
for both the platforms and the players.
Absolutely. And it's something that potential investors need to be aware of.
Okay.
The regulatory landscape could change quickly, and that could have a big impact on the value of their investment.
So it sounds like we're still in the very early stages of figuring out how this whole tap-to-earn thing is going to play out.
Yeah.
But despite the uncertainties, there's definitely a lot of potential here.
Without a doubt. We're seeing the boundaries between traditional finance and entertainment blur.
Yeah.
And that's creating new opportunities for investment and wealth creation, particularly for those who have been excluded from those systems in the past.
And even if GoTapper itself doesn't become the next big thing,
Right.
it's a fascinating case study in how these new models are challenging the status quo
For sure.
and forcing us to rethink how we approach finance.
Exactly.
But before we get too carried away with the future of finance, let's come back to the present. What are the key takeaways for our listeners today?
Well, I think for anyone who's intrigued by GoTapper and this broader tap-to-earn trend, the most important thing is to approach it with a balanced perspective.
Yeah.
Don't get swept up in the hype. Do your research, understand the risks, and be prepared for volatility.
Sound advice.
Mm-hmm.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From tapping goats to fractional NFTs,
Yeah.
from community building to regulatory uncertainty. But I think the core question remains, is GoTapper just a fad, a flash in the pan? Or does it represent a more fundamental shift in how we think about investing?
That's the question, isn't it? It's too early to say for sure. But what's exciting is that GoTapper, regardless of its individual success, it's part of a bigger trend, you know? Like something bigger is happening here.
Right. It's pushing the boundaries of how we even think about investing, like who gets to participate. That's what I find so interesting about this whole thing. Even if GoTapper doesn't become like the next big thing, it's a sign that the world of finance is becoming more accessible, more engaging, and maybe even fun.
Absolutely. And that's a good thing, right? For a long time, investing has been this mysterious thing, like an exclusive club.
Right. Only for the wealthy or people with specialized knowledge.
Exactly. But what if investing could be just part of our everyday lives?
Right. Like what if instead of dreading our monthly budget review, it was something we actually look forward to?
Oh, I know, right?
What if learning about financial markets could be as entertaining as playing GoTapper?
I mean, it might sound crazy, but look how much our relationship with technology has changed, even in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
We expect things to be instant life, engaging, tailored to our needs.
Right.
It makes sense that those expectations would spill over into other parts of our lives, like finance.
Totally. So maybe GoTapper, even if it's not, the answer is a glimpse into that future.
I think so.
A future where investing is less about spreadsheets and charts. And more about experiences and accessibility.
Exactly. It's about making finance more relevant, more appealing to a wider audience.
Right.
Especially younger generations.
Right.
The ones who are just starting to build their financial futures.
Yeah. It's like GoTapper's asking, what if investing wasn't so stuffy and intimidating?
Right.
What if it could be something you actually enjoy?
That's a great question. And it really challenges us to rethink how we approach financial literacy and education.
Yeah.
Maybe the key is to meet people where they are. Integrate these financial concepts into platforms and experiences that are already part of their lives.
It makes you wonder what other innovations we'll see in the future. Like, will we be tapping our way to retirement someday?
Who knows?
Or using VR to explore investment opportunities? The possibilities are kind of endless.
It really is an exciting time. And I think the key takeaway for our listeners today is stay curious, stay informed, and don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Love that.
The world of finance is changing, and it's up to each of us to decide how we want to participate.
Well said. All right. So that wraps up our deep dive into the world of tap-to-earn games and the very intriguing case of GoTapper. We've explored the mechanics, the potential benefits, the inherent risks.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey.
We've debated its sustainability, pondered the larger implications for the future of finance.
Definitely a lot to think about.
As always, we encourage you to do your own research, draw your own conclusions, and most importantly, never stop learning.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And to all our listeners out there, we'll catch you on the next deep dive.